You know, the fun part about the Guest Booker series is the opportunity we get to recreate history, wrestling history, but history nonetheless. So we try to choose eras or incidents or snapshots in time that are rich enough to pour through the details and gives the guest some real meat to with which to work. And I think we have that today. Arguably, the most controversial thing that we've seen happen in a ring in the last, can we say 20 years still? We can still say 20 years. This guy was a part of, and one of the very few, correct me if I'm wrong, people that saw it all firsthand. A lot of people talk about it.
Right.
But you were there.
I was there.
You were there through the decision-making process and also in the room when Bret Hart and Vince McMahon saw each other for the first time after the bell rang at Survivor Series in 1997.
I was there.
And you'll take us there.
I'll take you partially there.
He'll take us there as much as he can and leave the toll gate open on the bridge back to Stamford, for God's sakes. Thank you, first of all, for agreeing to talk about this and your candor. I'll thank you in advance for that. We always start getting inside you a little bit, you being the booker, before we talk about any specific item on the agenda. So I want to know the first time that you were aware that what you were seeing in a ring was from somebody's mind.
You know, it depends on you say when the first time you realized it came from someone's mind. In the questions you asked what my aha moment was, and this may be the same question, because my aha moment was I grew up first 5 years of my life, 6 years of my life in El Paso, Texas, watching wrestling from the Funks in the Amarillo territory. And then we moved to Houston in 1969. And there was a different group of talent. However, there was one guy, Grizzly Smith, and Grizzly Smith had left the Amarillo territory because Harley Race, Grizzly had an iron stomach, and Grizzly used to let people jump off onto his stomach and do these amazing things to his stomach. And Harley Race had gone up and jumped off of a ladder. It's to jump onto Grizzly's stomach, but missed and broke Grizzly's neck. Ended Grizzly's career, and Grizzly was gone.
Until?
And then we moved to Houston, and I'll be damned if Grizzly wasn't there. As a matter of fact, Grizzly was coming back from this severe career-ending broken neck. However, it was Johnny Valentine who did the same damn thing in Houston and missed and broke Grizzly's neck.
How old are you at this time?
I'm 6.
Well, so that it was,
yeah.
Santa Claus was ruined that early for you.
And it wasn't ruined. It was kind of that, wait a minute. It's not really adding up here. You know, the good guys in one place were bad guys in another, and I used to go to Iowa every summer with my dad, and I would watch Vern Gagne's TV up there, and it was just different. It was, you realizing that, wait a minute, you know, this may not be right, but the moment of actually witnessing it was when I was working in Paul Bosch's office, 16 years old, and Gary Hart, Bronco Lubitsch were in. They were the bookers from the Dallas territory, and they came in and they would meet with Paul on Friday afternoon before the matches Friday night. And I came in, I would bring in the sandwiches and the coffee and everything, and you know, part of the meeting. But as I brought it in, Paul had a wrestling ring, like a toy. It wasn't a toy, it was actually art. Wrestling ring they had in his office. And they had one of the wrestlers tied up in the ropes. It was his leg, you know, and it was a thing, step through the middle and the bottom rope, come back and tie yourself up in the ropes. And they were going through this finish.
With action figure? Or like,
well, it was art. I mean, it was like a ceramic wrestler. And so they had him, and they go, no. And it's like, Paul, look, you know, and they'll have him tied up. And I was like, wow, that's how they do it, man. They get that ring and they do the guys. And so then that was kind of like, that's pretty cool.
Wow, I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah.
When did you first get an opportunity to be on the business side, the creative side of the business?
Wow. You know, I worked from the time I was 10 years old for Paul Bosch. I was assistant director of a TV show when I was 12. 14, I'm ring announcing. 16, I'm refereeing. 18, I'm running the place and doing everything. It was weird because Paul ran Houston as its own entity. He would use the Dallas booking office. He would use the San Antonio booking office. He would bring guys in from New York. He brought guys in from all over the place. So it wasn't a true booking office per se, because we didn't book anybody out. He just didn't use one exclusive office.
But you're making decisions, or decisions are being made on wins, losses, who's going to
Yeah, but
push.
Paul usually did that with whoever the booker was at the time. Really, for me to actually be involved in television writing, I did write the television. I formatted it, and I wrote the television and laid it out, but did that with either Gary Hart, later on Wahoo, Tully, whoever the bookers were at the time. And they pretty much dictated so that it would remain the same as the rest of the territory, so that it would all make sense. So that we weren't running our own programs in Houston that would totally contradict whatever they were running somewhere else.
Right.
So we tried to keep that. There was a sameness to it, but Paul would put his own twist on things. Paul would bring in superstar Billy Graham, Bruno. Well, that drew.
Down there, huh?
Well, it's
a different thing.
It's way different. It's way different. But he would bring in, Nick Bockwinkel from the AWA. We normally use the NWA champion, but Paul liked to use Bockwinkel and bring Nick in. They had a friendship, and Nick actually did well there. But it was different. So anyway, to answer your question, really getting involved in the creative things, booking was probably Mid-South when Jim Ross helped and got me into actually writing the television and helping book the towns and book everything that was there.
How long did you do that for?
Wow. A few years until I left. That was in 87, so I left in 87, so probably, 84, 85, about 87 there.
Big part of that job is interpersonal relations. I mean, if you have to go tell somebody some news they may not want to hear, I guess there's a way to do it and still keep them in the game as opposed to make an enemy out of them. What are some of the skills that you need as a good booker?
Well, I've got notes.
Go ahead.
And I don't wear glasses in real life, folks. It's just for, no, actually.
No lenses in them.
Wouldn't be, there's no lenses.
Is that trademark? Are you allowed to wear glasses on my camera? Because I know you did that with the red face. Is there TM on your goddamn glasses too?
No.
Right.
These are actual real glasses and everything. Patience, really. It's it's patience. It's feeling. It's treating people. Sometimes you've got to be brutally honest with people, and that's a really hard thing to do. Because 9 times out of 10, when you're looking at yourself, you're not always brutally honest with yourself. You want to look and say, God, I really did good. That was really great. Hey, didn't I do good? Did you see me? Did I look good? Was I good? No, I felt like it was pretty solid. And you're like, no, man, it was the shits. I'm sorry.
Well, you wouldn't say that, though, probably, as a booker. You really would? Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you have to.
It's better to give them a bitter pill.
Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you can be nicer about it. Pat Patterson taught me that. Pat Patterson taught me one time, because Vince and I used to fight a lot. And I would just say, well, that sucks. And, that's shit. That's stupid. And Pat goes, you could be nicer. He says, what if you just incorporated 2 words? What if? And have an alternative. And I adopted that, and it made my life a whole hell of a lot easier. But it's because it makes you think about what you're going to say before you say it, because now you're processing a solution to the problem. It's easy to identify the problem. I have guys all day long tell me about why they should be top guy and why they should do this and why they should do that. But very few of them can give you a story or a reason to get there and stay there other than, well, I should be champion.
Are you that open? If you come to me and say, listen, no, Sean, I don't think we're I say, all right, well, but listen, instead of that, what if we do? Are you open to their idea?
Oh, hell yes.
Or
you have to
already have it set where you want to go?
Hopefully you've got it set where you want to go, but if they've got a better idea, steal it, use it. Why not?
Okay.
If it's good for business, use it. If you listen, what makes a good booker is somebody that listens to the people, not to themselves. Mm-hmm. If they're not a talent, and they're honest about what they're hearing and what they're feeling. It's not just about, well, I want this match, I've got this plan. It's about being able to adapt and listening to your audience, and the audience will tell you whether they're buying something or not. Every single time, they'll tell you. They'll shit on it if they don't like it. They'll embrace it if they do. Sometimes it may take a little longer, so you have to have patience. You have to believe in your idea, believe in the talent, make the talent believe it, and then it'll work. It really will.
What was the first big angle you came up with that you were able to sell the powers that be on that worked?
Well, my favorite was probably Bret and Owen, because you had no idea the argument to get there, because it was a very wholesome environment, so to speak, at the time, and that it was myself, Pat Patterson, and Vince McMahon, and we booked, wrote TV, did everything, and we're looking for different things to do. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Hart had actually sent in some stuff and wanted to do some things.
I bet.
And but you know what? Bruce is a damn creative guy. The problem is if Bruce could harness that on someone else other than Bruce, it would be tremendous, because he's very creative. I mean, he's got great ideas. So we were talking about Bruce, and I said, you know, what I could buy is, you've got Owen here, and Owen's an unbelievable talent. You got Bret, great talent. There's, to me, nothing more logical in the world than two brothers battling over jealousy, or mom liked you more. You were always dad's favorite, and you got a new car. Everybody can relate to that if you have a sibling.
Sure. Did everyone buy into it right away?
Oh my God, no.
Okay.
They thought that was the stupidest idea, because families
Who gave you opposition? Bret and Owen, or Vince and Pat?
Vince and Pat. Brothers don't fight. And I was like,
Either of them have brothers?
No.
There you go.
There you go. Well, yes, actually they do. Actually, both of them do. But yeah, but the thing was that it was, family doesn't fight. Family doesn't do that. And so, kind of just threw it out there. And Bret did like it. Bret really did like it. And they were thinking about doing something with Bruce at that point. Maybe it would be Bruce, and it was Bret that said, no, it should be Owen. And we built it. But I just loved it because it was so natural. And I was Owen. I was the baby brother that always had to live in Big Brother's shadow, that always had, and I could relate to it so much. And here was this younger brother that had as much, if not more, talent than Big Brother, mm-hmm. and had all this personality. But Big Brother always got it's a champion. He always got upgraded to first class. Bret, Owen will be all right back there. And it was so easy, and everybody can relate to it. And finally, it took Bret to be able to come back and go, I'd love to work with Owen. I've got an idea. Well, what if we did Bret versus Owen? And
is it like that?
Sometimes it is. It's funny, but no. Vince was great about listening and just taking stuff. If it worked, man, it really didn't matter whose idea it was.
You mentioned WWE. Where else have you booked? What's in your?
I came up through Paul, and then with Bill Watts. And Bill and
how's
Jim
Bill to
Ross.
work for? Let me stop you right there. You hear a lot of stuff.
Bill's
I guess
an
you never had to
asshole.
get on the floor and take a kick or anything like that. That was reserved for some of the other guys. But how is he as a boss?
I'm sure Bill would have liked to have had me on the floor to kick me. Bill and I didn't get along really well. I know that's hard to believe, but I'm really bullheaded, opinionated, outspoken, arrogant, cocky, all those things, and so is Bill. But Bill's also a bully. And through all the negative things you can say about Bill Watts, I have to say I learned so much from Bill. Great teacher, because he explained everything. He told you the hows and the whys, and he knew it. And 9 times out of 10, he was right. But it was his way or no way. So I learned so much from Bill Watts, what to do, what not to do. Personally, we didn't always get along. As you get older, you go, oh, God, that was really stupid. Mm-hmm. But he knew what he wanted, knew how to get it out of his talent. He demanded perfection. And if you missed one nuance, then he held you accountable.
What was it like going from the environment of the WWE, creative, a company steeped in tradition and really the flag bearer for wrestling, and then into the TNA creative environment?
Really gonna go there, huh?
I set up the house of cards for you. Go ahead.
There you go. Different. It, wow. It's like going from a major university to, you ever see those little community college in the strip malls? Mm-hmm. Next to the bingo hall?
Yeah, one of those mail order colleges.
Yeah,
they'll send you
exactly.
a degree in the mail.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like going from that to that. There wasn't a lot of focus on direction and focus on story, and this is what we're going to do, and this is where we're going to be in 6 months. This is where we're going to be in a year. Mm-hmm. It was this is what we're doing this week. Let's get through it, and then we're going to see what we're going to do next week. And even if there was planning, unfortunately, if the rating went down 1/10 of a point, it was, oh my God, the sky is falling, we have to change.
Abandoned storyline.
Yes.
Abandoned ship, yeah.
This isn't working. We've got to Sting has to be on TV next week. We just decapitated Sting last week, and Sting is off TV for 6 months. He's got to be back. It was very knee-jerk, and there was way too much emphasis on that rating point can't go down 1/8 of a point.
But it also didn't go up. So
no, it didn't.
Yeah, I know some of the folks that work down there, and they're experienced minds of the business.
Right.
So I am to assume that it wasn't those guys that were saying, we got to get Sting back on TV.
No.
That was someone maybe higher up.
Maybe higher up.
In authority.
Right.
Who controlled the checkbook.
Right.
So you kind of had to do what they said.
Or you really had to spend most of your time trying to convince them otherwise, which was detrimental to taking everything to the next level.
If I had a lot of money and decided that I was going to invest it in a hamburger company, mm-hmm. and I don't know anything about hamburgers, the thing I would do, I think most businesses, when they acquire other assets, what they do is they go, I'm going to find the best burger guy, and he's going to run that company for me. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a ton of money because he's the best burger guy.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell him anything about the pickles, because I don't know what the pickles go with this bun, because he's the burger guy.
Right.
Why would somebody, fictional of course, with a wealthy, powerful family, business owners, why couldn't they just let you make the burgers? Was it fun for them? Was it an ego thing? Because the rating point was a 1 forever.
Mm-hmm. Right. It kind of just hovered right there.
So why wouldn't I have you do the burgers?
Because, let's arguably say, let's say that the business that you do know is you build houses.
Okay.
Okay? Let's say you're a contractor and you build houses, and you build the biggest, most beautiful houses in the world. But now you want that burger company, and you look at it and say, well, you know what? A chef who's going to come up with the greatest burger and come up with the greatest recipes in the world is no different than my contractor over here. Exactly the same. They come in, they do a job. Here's what you got to do. Build me a burger. Just build me a burger. All this guy has to do is get his wood, his nails, line it up, hammer the nails and wood together. Guy building the burger, he's got to get the right meat. He's got to experiment with it. He's got to season it just right. He's got to be able to mold it maybe in a different way. Then he's got to bake the bread. And now he's got to decide what condiments to put on it. And the sides and the dishes and how he serves it to you. Go over here, contractor, the plumber, the electric guy, they're doing exactly what they would do on every single house. Nothing changes. They're doing that. But as the owner of the contracting company, as the owner of company that builds houses, now I'm buying the hamburger. I want it run the same way.
Right. Okay.
The chef? Give me any chef. They're just a chef. Use any meat. It's just meat.
But they went out and got some of the best chefs. So they knew that there was a skill, or else they would have just gotten...
They got some good, they got some decent cuts of meat, but they didn't know how to take that meat, mix it with other meat to make the best damn burger and season it and put it all together. And then the chef, well, the chef is trying to do all of this. They're being told by the company over here that's just built 14 track houses that, no, you paid too much for that meat. Okay, get rid of that meat and get me some other meat and put that in. But it's not as good. Mm-hmm. No. It's just meat.
So you weren't trusted that you knew meat. You're hired because you're supposed to know meat, but then you weren't trusted enough to work with the meat. Without my input, owner of the contracting company, you need my help.
If it didn't immediately, it's like you open up the burger place, and the first day you sell 1,000 burgers, and the next day you only sell 990. God, this is the shits. This is horrible. Got to get rid of him because we went down.
There's no one around me as the owner of the burger company pulling me aside and go, listen, honey, maybe my dad or somebody pull me aside and say, this isn't how you run a business. You got to let the generals drive here.
No.
Okay.
No, not really.
So they were on their own to make the decisions.
You know what? And again, I made decisions there, and I'll stand by my decisions and made them for the best of the company. I enjoyed my time there. Mm-hmm. It was fun. It was great. It was very frustrating at times, but I had a good time.
Okay. Of all the places you booked, where were you allowed to be to let your creative flag fly the most?
I'd have to say WWE, because it was the longest and it was just the most fun. I loved the people I worked with. It was a pretty creative environment, and we could. There was a time where you could just pretty much throw anything out and everything was considered. I mean, there's nothing that's not considered there.
You were there over, how many years total?
22.
Right. How many of that working creatively?
I was from 90, I was really only out of creative for about 2 years.
Okay. So you worked there on camera, you went to Global right after that, right? And then you came back. So around 95-ish?
92.
92 you came back, okay. So you were there for a really interesting span because you were there for the really kind of cartoony, some troubled years, the trials and subpoenas and all that stuff. Bizarre character creations, and then into really serious, nitty-gritty, edgy, hardcore, dare I apply that word, 97, 98, right. Rock, Austin. So you had your hands creatively in very different styles of wrestling. Which did you enjoy more? Where you got to say, maybe this guy's a hockey player and he comes to the ring with a mask, versus saying, Steve, you're going to bleed like a stuck pig when Bret has you.
See, I came from Texas, and I came from the South, where it was all about blood and guts and gore and reality and snug, and you made it as real as you possibly could. So Mantaur was a tough pill to swallow.
For him too.
You know, some of those were pretty out there, but you have to understand the process too. And it wasn't so much saying, "Well, hey, God, we need a hockey guy. Let's get a goon and let's put him in this." It was more of, you have talent, and sometimes you have a talent. Wild Bill Irwin, for example, who had been Super D, he had been Wild Bill, he had been the Long Rider. He had these different gimmicks. Good hand in the ring. But what do you do with him? I mean, what do you do with him? And one thing Vince was excellent at is he would sit there and talk to talent and find out as much as he could about them and find something that he could tap into. One thing Bill Irwin was he played hockey. He was a goon when he played hockey, and he loved hockey. Big hockey fan from Minnesota. Had the Minnesota accent, and he was as far from a cowboy in Vince's eyes as you could get. But here was a guy who was the goon, who they sent out to go get in the fights, who they sent out to go do this. In his hockey days, why not bring that to life?
Why not bring it to life saying he was an decorated ex-hockey player, and that he's not coming to the ring being a hockey. Well, we know some athletes that were, some wrestlers that had professional football. Wahoo had professional football. But they didn't come to the ring in a Jets helmet.
No, but he came in a headdress, let everybody know he's an Indian. What's the difference?
Touche.
What's the difference? Okay? Bill came out dressed as a hockey guy. Now, the boots might have been a little ridiculous. Those were Bill's idea. But I loved it. I mean, I thought, okay, you take it to the extreme. You take it as far as you can take it. Sometimes reality and believability get messed up in there somewhere. But sometimes you take it and go, what's next? Bastion Booger. Man, I'd heard about what this great worker, Mike Shaw was, and so on and so forth. He'd done his Norman the Lunatic thing and everything at WCW, and he came in, and Vince just had this vision for him as a mad monk.
Yeah.
And didn't work. It just didn't. Mike moved in slow motion, and he didn't feel it. He wasn't comfortable doing it. And he got so out of shape and just so...
But the wrestling monk. Concept of wrestling monk.
Yeah.
Doesn't get vetoed somewhere? For fuck's sake.
No, not.
Forget about what Mike could do or couldn't do. He's fat, he's skinny.
Not until you put him out in front of the audience and you test it, and then after you dig him out of the piles of shit that have been heaped upon him, and then you can go, God, guys, what are we gonna do? Bastion Booger. Okay, great.
The Red Rooster.
Yeah.
Terry was on this very show. A rib that just
wasn't a rib.
Grew legs, or he is a rooster. What's the thinking?
Here's a guy, journeyman, that was a decent worker. Had been everywhere, been on TV. Middle of the card guy. Cocky, arrogant. Felt he was a top guy. Felt he was better than he was. Wanted to be Ric Flair. Dressed like Rick. Worked like Rick. Tried to, travel around with Rick. Wanted to be Ric Flair. He was a cocky, arrogant guy. When he met Vince, that was Vince's take on him. It was here's this cocky kid. If he only had half the talent he believes he had, he'd be a superstar. He's like a fucking cocky little rooster. Like, let's make him the cock of the walk. Let's make him the fucking rooster. Let's make him the rooster in the hen house. Because the rooster in the hen house, who rules the hen house? The rooster. He walks around and he's cocky and he's doing all this shit. He fucks every chicken in there, and he's the cock of the walk. And rooster is the number one guy. Wakes everybody up in the morning. Does whatever he wants because he can. And as Vince is doing it, and very genuine in that here's an opportunity to stop being Terry Taylor, that colorless, odorless, tasteless. I don't want to say that because I think Terry was a hell of a talent, but his personality kind of colorless, odorless, tasteless. It didn't.
Too white meat.
Way too white meat. Yeah. And here now, you've got an opportunity to take this character, make it larger than life, because especially at that point in time, you wanted characters larger than life. You wanted the extraordinary. You didn't want the ordinary. You didn't want Paul W. Taylor,
Right.
So now here's an opportunity, man, to come out and be who you are. Turn it up. Strut. He strutted anyway. Okay? He just didn't realize how he strutted when he walked. He would always, you know.
But rather than make it a guy like that, we made him like emulate the behavior.
We
of
didn't.
a
We
rooster.
didn't. We didn't. That was
his take on it.
He chose to not take it seriously. He looked at it as a rib. He looked at it as a knock on him. He looked at it, well, this is a rib. They're punishing me for whatever reason. Vince didn't know him from Adam. He didn't care about whatever other baggage it was. He was like, this is what I see. And if Vince sees it, good God, go with it, because you'll make it, because it's his baby then. Terry looked at it as a rib. I'll never get over with this, because Terry knew better. And he did it half-assed. He didn't embrace it. And he was making a joke out of it versus do it, balls out, make it work, and then see what happens. Mm-hmm. He didn't do that. And that's why it just didn't work. I mean, good God, we gave Bobby Heenan, we gave everything around him. You know, Bobby, if you went with Bobby, that meant they saw something in you, you were going somewhere. And push came, stack the deck, and Terry didn't believe in it. Terry didn't feel it, so therefore it didn't work. But I'll tell you, the first thing out of your mouth, you said Red Rooster, Terry Taylor, because you remember him as the Red Rooster. To this day, he's more recognizable as the Red Rooster than Terry Taylor, ever. And he only did it for 2 years.
That's true.
So you tell me, did the gimmick work?
It worked in becoming iconic, but Terry as a wrestler probably would have wanted to be seen as iconic because of his in-ring or great promos or.
But he couldn't cut a great promo.
He couldn't cut. Okay, I got you.
So his in-ring work was great. So now adapt the Rooster and make that Rooster gimmick bigger. Then it all comes together and all works.
Committing at least to it, even
Yes.
if you're given a bad gimmick, like Dusty
Right.
with the polka dots made it work, and you could have put Dusty as anything,
But
and it would have
again,
worked.
why was it bad? Why were the polka dots bad?
I don't think they were bad. I just think they were bizarre and silly. If I were able to get my hands on a talent like Dusty, I don't know that I'd color him.
But he is colorful, and he wore black.
Yeah.
And it was like it was the American dream, Dusty Roll, funky like a monkey. Go, man, color him up. Do some shit with him. You know, here was a guy who used to wear tie-dye and fur coats and be funky and dance to the ring. But then he came up there and he wanted to be this serious badass. Mm-hmm. And Vince looked at it, and I'll never forget it. He goes, I see him in polka dots. Everywhere, polka dots. Yellow polka dots. And Dusty thought that was a rib. And it wasn't. It was just like, he goes, no, he wanted him to stand out. He didn't want him to be the same Dusty Rhodes that had been at WCW or Jim Crockett at the time. And he wanted something new. He wanted another evolution of Dusty Rhodes. Hence the polka dots. And again, to this day, Dusty's remembered a lot for the polka. After everything Dusty did in this business, they remember Dusty for the polka dots.
But Dusty, you could have put in anything, and it probably would have worked.
I put him in a butcher smock and covered him in cow blood. So I mean, hey.
Where do your ideas come from? Are your ideas generated by the talent you're going to be booking for, and saying, it would be interesting him, or are you driving along and you hear a song, and say, like where did they bubble down from?
Back in the old days, they come from everywhere. They really and truly do. They come from everywhere. Now, I get a lot of ideas from my kids because my kids are 14, so they're in that. They know everything that's going on. So I just listen to them. I don't ask them because if I ask them, they won't tell me. So I just listen. It's just life. You listen and I'm a news guy. I love to watch the news. I love to know what's happening in the world. I'm a serial killer guy. I love to read about what makes serial killers tick. What made you want to go and do that. The Iceman guy, I mean...
Richard Kuklinski.
Richard Kuklinski, right. I mean, that was just intriguing to me, because what brings you... How do you and the ice cream guy get together? It's just bizarro land. So you get them from everywhere. I mean, in everyday life. And if you live your life, you get up, you go to work every day, and you just interact with those people, and you come home, and your wife cooks you dinner, or you cook dinner, and you sit down with the kids, and then you watch a little bit of TV and go to bed. That is what it is. But if you go out beyond that, and you talk to the guy that's going around the office late at night to come and empty everybody's trash, and you sit there and have a conversation with him one day, and you realize his life's a whole lot different than yours. What makes him tick? What's he interested in? What did his kids do last week? Or you're out and there's some rich guy having a drink at the end of the bar that's by himself, because he probably wants to be by himself because he's got enough money that he can be by himself, and you just go ahead and sit down next to him and say, hey, so what's going on in the market today? And you get them talking about their day, and you get them talking about what interests them. Mm-hmm. And did you see The Real Housewives? I hate that show. You know, when that one, the blonde, and she gets up there and she goes, woohoo! And, you know, she's just aggravating to me. And that guy that she's dating, you know he's fucking around on her. Now, the guy's just told me he hates that show. He doesn't watch. But now he's telling me everything about it. So I'm finding out, okay, this rich white motherfucker knows what's happening in the world. He is engaged. And it's no different than a wrestling fan who will tell you, you know, I used to watch when I was a kid, but you know, now they got that guy with the lantern, and he comes out, and the one with the pig mask or whatever he's got there. I just don't like it, because, you know, Kane, that guy should be. And you're like going, so you quit when you were 8 years old? Okay, cool.
You know, Bruce, I used to watch a long time ago, and I don't anymore. And one of the reasons why I think, if I have to behaviorally profile myself, is I think I had a sense, even though I was a kid, that when I listened to Roddy Piper talk, and when I listened to Ric Flair talk, when I listened to Dusty Rhodes talk, or Superstar Billy Graham talk, that they were talking. And now I think I get the sense that guys are moving their mouths and somebody else is talking. Because they're writing. What's the difference between a booker and a writer?
Well, see, a booker booked book territories. A booker booked business. They looked at the business end of things. They were booking to run house shows, to be profitable in house shows, to book an entertaining television show. We didn't even hear of ratings back in the day, but later on, you know, to get good ratings. And a writer's just that, they write. They write their words because they want you to say their words.
Should we be doing that? You're old school. Yet you wrote for TV.
Yes. But how I wrote, so I write differently. I write ideas. I have become, the cool thing about the job of creative on this side is you're not just one talent, you get to be all the talent.
That's true.
You get to play antagonist, protagonist. You get to be everybody. How would you react to this? So a writer is forced to write the story and then write the words that go with that story. I wrote an idea and a feeling and how to get there. And I would give an idea. It's like, Sean, if you found out so-and-so's fucking your wife, you saw him for the first time after you've confirmed it, what would you do?
So you'd leave that decision up to the talent.
Well, I would want to get their natural emotion and what they would naturally do, and then take that and hone it. And either maybe they'd go too far, maybe they wouldn't go far enough. I was like, God, you wouldn't want to disembowel them? What if? You know, and then you start to play the what if game, and you start throwing things out back and forth. But you find what they're comfortable with. You find what they would have done in a similar situation earlier that you go, oh my God, and you exploit it. But you don't. The hard thing for me is taking a writer right out of college with very little life experience, who has maybe never had a sexual experience with a female or male, whatever their gig is, and then have them write a relationship story. Because how in the hell can they tell me how to feel if they've never been dumped? How can they tell me what it feels like if you've never worked this hard to get to that point? And
well, how can someone who's not a wrestling fan write for wrestling? Just because they may have a pedigree or a resume that has some soap opera writing, some TV writing, reality writing in Hollywood.
Because you're writing stories. You're writing stories about people. You're writing stories about people, for people. And it happens to be wrestling that is the conduit. To me, that's not that big of an issue to me.
Really?
I'd love Freddie Prinze, man. I absolutely loved working with Freddie because he gave me that outsider's viewpoint. I would look at things one way. And when you're only looking at it one way from the wrestling fan, they're going to be there. Those hardcore fans are going to be there. If you want to grow your audience, you have to get beyond that. You have to find something else that's going to attract all these other people. And you have to grow from the outside in. You have to come back to what is everybody doing, not just what is the wrestling fan doing, because the wrestling fan will be there. The wrestling fan is going to be loyal. They're very loyal. They're very vocal. They'll be there. Now I want to grow that beyond. And you can't grow beyond it by just staying right here. So that part I have absolutely no problem with it. I do when they start dictating how the wrestling should be, because that's not what they're there for.
Right.
They're there to bring us outside stories and outside feeling and then incorporate it.
But can all the talent on your roster pull off outside stories? From an acting standpoint, from a believability standpoint?
Some can, some can't.
Right.
It depends on the talent. It really does. And that's why you have to get inside the talent's head and find things that they can relate to. Find things that make them pop. It's CM Punk. Nobody understood CM Punk. Nobody had a clue. Here's a guy with a Pepsi tattoo on his arm. Skinny Muay Thai shit. Nobody knew what it was about. Nobody knew anything about him. That guy doesn't drink. He doesn't do drugs. I hate him. Everybody made fun of him because they didn't understand him. We went up in the stands, took one camera, me and Punk, and I just asked him all those questions. Why the Pepsi tattoo? What's this shit? What's this Society X thing that you do? I mean, why? And he told me why he doesn't drink, why he doesn't do drugs. Told me the stories of his tattoos. None of which I would have related to, but the way he told me the stories was very interesting to me, because he's an interesting enough guy that you want to know. I want to know more about him. Instead of just sitting back and going, that guy's different, that guy's strange, next. Ask. And then you find out all these things.
Why didn't anybody before that? Is the roster too big that we can't pay individualized attention to everybody?
A lot of times, yeah. And if you're going to stand out on your own. And he was standing out, but in the wrong way.
Right.
And no one had embraced the fact that, and it took the kids back at the studio who were his age, who understood that part of society. We didn't, God, man, we're 40-year-old guys that exercise. What the? So you're going to go to a club, but you're not going to drink? Why go to the club? Just stay home if you're not going to drink. That was the mentality.
It got pretty close when they did the whole thing with him kind of shooting on the company and sitting up on the ramp and talk. And it looked like, I watched again for the first time in a long time then, because I was like, oh, wow, they really, if they play this right, they could make everybody guess again. We hadn't had to guess in wrestling for a very long time. oh, maybe we can suspend disbelief a little bit. Send
Sure.
him, make him show up at all these little indies all over the country and disrespect the company. Keep him off TV 6 months, a year, and a month later, it was over. He was back. Well, why'd we rush it? Chasing a rating or what?
Okay. I'll give you my analogy of a television show. Okay. It's not suitable for all audiences here. Okay.
Only the mentally deranged watch
Yes.
this show.
Okay.
So don't worry. Ed Gein.
But I liken a good television show to sex. You take a girl out, okay, you have a nice romantic evening, you go have some fun, have a few drinks, then you get her back to your place, you have a little foreplay, and you play around a little bit, and then you start to actually get into the love making, and you take your time, and you make sure everybody feels good and everybody gets to the point. Then you're in the act, and it all builds to hopefully a great climax. And then you're, but you want more. But you're beat, you're exhausted from that, and you want more. And I've said this to Vince, so it won't come as any big surprise, but it is Vince sometimes would just want to stick his dick in and come for 2 hours.
That's a wonderful analogy.
And
CM Punk was a blowjob in an elevator, wasn't it?
Basically, yes. And so sometimes it moves so fast that you're not allowed the time to enjoy it and savor it, because you're on to the next thing. You've got so many hours that you have to pump out. And I mean, who else can produce 8 hours of new programming, original programming, week in, week out, no off season, 52 weeks a year? Mm-hmm. That in and of itself is pretty amazing.
Yes. No, the grind
is... It's just a difference in how you tell those stories, and whether or not you want to invest the time and have the patience to let everything play out.
Okay, we're back in 1997 in the WWE, and Bret's the champ. And what's the climate like here right now?
Business is tough, but it's tough in the way that house show business is actually coming up. But television, we're getting our asses kicked week in and week out by Ted Turner, and we're putting on some of the best television we've done in a while.
Fiscally, are contracts challenging your profitability right now?
Some contracts were, yeah.
How about one guy in particular? Bret Hart was signed to an extensive deal a couple of years earlier. What were the terms of that contract?
Well, Bret was signed to a long-term guaranteed deal.
20?
That yes, I believe it was 20 years, and it was a lot of money up front. And we were going along well, we were doing well. The rest of the talent, when you look at all the talent as a whole, that was an awful big chunk that the rate of return, are you really going to get that? And Bret was looking at retirement as well, and looking at getting out at some point and doing other things. So when I say retirement, he was looking to slow down and retire at some point. So you're looking at what you're going to get out of it, and I think that chunk of money was just a drain on the company at that point.
When Vince realized that it would have been better off to lose Bret and save that money and focus on the other talent, there were certainly other high-profile players there, did he first say to Bret, listen, you're free to go across the street and see what you can get. Mm-hmm. If you get anything better, please take it.
Yes. I mean, he wanted to do what was right for Bret. Mm-hmm. And he felt, if I can't do this for you, Bret, I don't want to stand in your way. If they've got an offer for you for more money, go get the money. Go take it. Go get the money and realize that the store will always be open, But it was not, we hate to lose, we hated to lose him.
Right.
But it was, Vince didn't want to stand in his way of making a better deal for himself. And he said, use us against them.
Would Bret have been willing to restructure the contract to maybe backload some of this money?
But that wouldn't have been a good deal for the company either. That really wasn't an option.
Okay.
At that point, maybe hindsight being 2020, it may have worked out tremendously for him. But at that point, that really wasn't an option.
For the purpose of going forward, we should define a term right now because it's going to come up. What is reasonable creative control, and what is unreasonable creative control?
Well, I'll get on my soapbox now. I believe a creative control clause in any contract is complete bullshit. I don't care who you are. Because if you're going to go to work for someone, you have to have a level of trust, and you have to have a reasonable level of trust that they're going to do what's right for business. Because when you go to work for someone, you're going to work for them, and they're paying you to increase their business and to do more business. If you're going to give away, whether it's reasonable creative control, unreasonable, or just creative control, now you're giving away a part of your business where you're held hostage by someone or something else. So reasonable creative control was that it would be discussed, and if they felt that they had a better way to do it, it was always open. It was just put in to appease.
But ultimately, aren't you fucking yourself as a boss to be able to say...
You're hoping that the other person you're dealing with is going to be reasonable.
And what if they're not?
Is
it stated anywhere that...
reasonable.
Well, right, and here we are.
Yeah.
Is it said anywhere that if I don't feel your proposition is reasonable, I have the final say?
No.
Right.
So what's reasonable?
Oh. What are the options as an exit strategy when it's first apparent that Bret's not going to restructure any kind of contract, Vince really can't offer him anything else, and we're going to let him go across the street? You must sit with Vince and Pat and say, okay, here is how we can do this. Even before you go to Bret, what's the plan you guys come up with?
What we did. With the exception of the plan is exactly what happened, except for the screw job. The plan was Shawn was going over at Survivor Series. We were moving on to Steve. Steve was building this whole time. Mm-hmm. Steve was, man, he was the guy. That's where we were going. We had Mike Tyson over here. We knew where we were going. But the plan was, man, Bret drops the title there, whether Bret was with us or not.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Did you think it was a possibility at that point that Bret wouldn't be with you?
When the original plan was made?
Yes.
No. But when he did, it just sped it up. It's pretty simple. I mean, it was what it was. Because actually, and I believe it's what I'm pretty sure I have for the alternative, if Bret had stayed, the blow-off was going to be at Royal Rumble with the return. So, because you had to keep Steve away from whoever that was until Rumble to Mania.
Why couldn't we get to the Rumble at least so Bret could have done it that way?
Bret didn't want to.
Wouldn't give you 3 more months?
No. At that point, it was he gave him an opportunity to go. Here's what they came back. They wanted him to come in such a time. I was like, okay.
But he's still under contract to you.
Yeah.
So you could say you can't leave until January.
One thing, you can say a lot of things about Vince McMahon. He's a man of his word, and if he says he's going to do it, then he'll do it. I say that as we talk about he's a man of his word, and then he'll did what he did. But he did it again. We'll get into it.
What I'm going to is Bret had a lot of power over this situation, more than maybe he should have.
Bret had reasonable creative control on his character and what he did. Now, if someone else felt that was unreasonable, at the end of the day, you've got to go with what the company feels is the right thing to do for the company. Because we no longer are going to be using Bret Hart. So, it's not reasonable to us for him to win on his last night with the company.
No, I get that. Sean's reluctance to job to anybody. Did this create a tit-for-tat kind of situation which may have contributed to Bret's reluctance, whether it was Canada or not, to lay down for Sean?
There was always animosity. There was always that personal jealousy between the two. Sean was in a different place at that time, and Sean could be very abrasive at times. And I just think it was locker room bravado. Well, I'm not doing a job for anybody. Well, fuck him. I'm not going to do a job for him.
Right.
Would Sean have done a job for him? I think in a heartbeat if Vince asked him to. No problems. No questions asked. But two guys in the locker room, everybody sitting around. I'm not going to job for you. Please. My God, who would believe that? You know, so that's all that was. Bret took it seriously. Bret's a very deep thinker and very serious guy. He took it seriously, took it to heart. Like, how dare you, you son of a bitch, after everything I've done in this business, done for Sean, you know, vice versa. They had some of the greatest matches ever. And they both really, truly respected each other. I don't think they really liked each other too much at certain times, but they respected each other, yes. And I just think it was bravado and bullshit, and people in Bret's ear going, Sean's not going to do a job for you. He wouldn't do a job for you. Why should you do a job for him? Mm-hmm. And it's just everybody stirring the pot.
Why was a title loss the only conceivable way for Vince to get the title back? Why couldn't it have been a presentation of a title back to Vince? Thank you for 20 years of blah, blah, blah.
Is that really reasonable?
I don't know that it is, but it would have saved any potential headaches.
No, because then you've got your competitor on the other side that can now introduce the man who never lost your championship onto their show. You got your competitor there that's salivating, picking up everybody that, you know, sneezes on our side and dangling millions and millions of dollars in front of them, and what, you know, you're just trying to hold on to everything you've got. And you know you've got to get. We had to get to the Rumble. We had to get to Tyson so that we could take that ride, and that's what turned the corner. But it was planned out. We could have done another company's knee-jerk reaction and go, oh my God, Bret's leaving. Bring Mike Tyson in and let's do it tomorrow. We could have done that.
Right.
Okay, but it was no. We've got a plan. This is going to work. We're going to do Mike Tyson's first pay-per-view appearance since coming out of jail. We're going to make this work, and in the process, we are going to debut Stone Cold Steve Austin to the world. So that plan never derailed. That plan was always there. What derailed was how Bret passed the torch, how Bret moved on.
When it is proposed amongst just the management that we may have to just take this off Bret, what's the reaction from the room? Who suggests it, and what's the reaction?
Well, it was just logical. I mean, it had to be done. There was no...
Everybody was on the team then.
Oh, without a doubt. Because at that point, there's really no other option.
Well, where does that... You knew you had to get the belt off Bret, but where does the revelation that, you know what, the way this is going, we're just going to have to get it off him? When is that proposed before November 9th? How far back?
Probably a month, whenever Bret gave us the decision that he had accepted the WCW offer.
So in those 30 days, there's no other city that he would have been willing to drop a title in? I mean, he has said that it was because it was Canada that he wouldn't do it. But
why would you do that to your business? Why would you say, hey, gosh, if you'd only been in Hoboken on Wednesday night, Bret Hart lost the WWF Championship.
Well, you had Raw, you had venues that you could have showed the loss.
Sure,
you could have done it on TV on Raw.
Sure, you could have, but you have a pay-per-view, one of your largest pay-per-views of the year that you have set up, that you've booked. So then, okay, he drops the title there. Then you get to the return on Survivor Series. Who's to say that he's still going to say, no, can't do it. It's Canada. I'm a hero.
Okay.
Sure, those options existed, but they weren't good business options. They weren't. I don't know why you would do that to appease Bret, who was only looking after Bret, versus looking after everyone else in the locker room in another company, the whole company. Mm-hmm. So you're going to give up a pay-per-view buy rate so Bret would feel better about not losing in Canada. He's lost in Canada before. I mean, so if we have a show in Houston, Texas, I can't lose. Actually, me going over in anything would be, I wouldn't know what to do. I was like, huh? I don't know how. I don't know how. Never done that.
I'm going to be a cynic, okay? And I'm going to say that. Here's a documentary that...
This is kind of like American Idol with the Coke thing.
It'll be blurred. I don't think we have to worry about that sponsorship money. Here's a documentary that I'm financing because I'm Bret Hart, and we're in the midst of doing it. You've given me access to the company, and we could shoot, the whole, backstage doings. And here's an interesting, thorough thread to the story. My contract and what are we going to do? Now it's an interesting documentary. You might be able to sell this one. Actually, I'm going to need a big climactic moment coming up. Let's put that on pause. Here's a problem in my contract that Vince has, okay, and he's got to get out of it one way or the other. And I need to save face. I really don't want to drop this strap the way he wants, and I don't want to do it in Canada. All of those scenarios resolved beautifully with this screw job.
Right.
What an ending for my documentary that I financed. I'm off the hook. I got fucked in Montreal. I didn't lose shit. And then you got your title back, you get free of my contract, and you actually now can start a little run as a heel yourself. Why am I to think that this wasn't cooked up between Bret and Vince very quietly at a bar in a Ramada in Tuscaloosa one night, and they've kept to it this whole time?
Because the Ramada in Tuscaloosa, that closed down. So it was a night's end.
How about Looker's Strip Club in Elizabeth, New Jersey by the airport?
Wow, I drove by that yesterday. That was
Did you get the
scary.
shakes?
Yes, I really did.
Shots with Yoko. Okay. Did you gargle? Did you gargle the shot? Wasn't that the deal? You guys used to have to gargle them so that you couldn't toss them?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Why shouldn't I think that, Bruce?
Well, because first of all, what business sense does it make for Vince to do that? From the standpoint of he didn't participate in the documentary. The only reason he did it was for Bret and for Carl DeMarco, who was the one that had orchestrated that. It was a way. It was originally going to be a Canadian deal, for the Canadian hero Bret Hart. In the documentary, it actually stopped because they just was, I guess, kind of boring or whatever. It just stopped for a period of time, and then picked up again, and they came back when all this stuff started happening. Because now there's a little more human interest, there were more things going on. Vince didn't benefit, or again, at that point, there was no benefit for Vince. The original benefit was the exposure that documentary would have given to the WWF and to the company. If Bret
we
had
benefited
stayed
on getting the belt back, allowing it to look like a screw job, and be out of the contract, and have Bret save face though, and he gets his little moment for his documentary. Now I'm gonna try this.
Do you think Bret saved face? How did Bret save face?
If his true stumbling block to doing this was, I don't want to lay down for Shawn, I don't want to lose a belt in Canada of my own volition, then he could say, well, I got screwed. I didn't do it. He didn't beat me.
It's, and again, just being on the other side, it's illogical from the standpoint of where we were going with our company and where the story was going. To have any more moving parts, it wasn't feasible. It just didn't work. Now, the Mr. McMahon character that evolved out of that was never, ever even on the table. Never on the books. It was one of those magic moments that happened, and you're sitting there going, holy shit, we've got a heel on our hands. We've had a heel on our hands since Vince opened his mouth on television, period. But he's a natural heel. People naturally disliked him because he was so much, had so much bravado and came across like, oh my, well, what's going to happen next? And they're like, fuck you, you're the owner of the company, you know what's going to happen next. So to convince him that people viewed him in another light was a tough sell sometimes. Really? Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Vince wanted to be the anonymous announcer.
I thought
Vince
he
didn't
loved
want it.
yelling at Bob Costas and
He does.
all that stuff.
But again, that's after, and he does. As a human being, yeah, he does. He really does. But that's a different Vince. That's not the character Vince. That's Vince. So there were two, then gently they merged. But by Bret leaving, the spit and the folklore that came after, and legitimate media, which I don't know what the fuck that is, picked up on different things and started portraying Vince in a negative light. It's like,
right.
Let's go with it.
All right, so let's go back prior to this. When is Hebner partnered in on what's going to happen? That day?
I believe so.
Walking into the building on November 9th, who knows?
I didn't.
You didn't.
No. Nope. Did not know.
What did you think was going to happen that night? If you didn't know that was going to happen, what did you think was going to happen? Bret was going to do it?
No, originally we had a finish that was going to be a DQ.
Right.
And Shawn was going to somehow end up, and then we went back, and Shawn was going to somehow end up with the title. And then Bret went back and was like, nah, I really can't do that. And so I'm sorry, actually, I'm reversing it. We walked in, originally, it was Shawn was going to walk out with the title. Then it came back to Bret just couldn't do that in Canada.
And I think they agreed on a schmaz, the DQ, and then the following night something was going to happen? Raw? Okay. What point during the day do you realize something else is going to happen?
Never.
What do you mean?
I realized when it actually happened.
So you didn't know that the bell was going to be rung early?
Nope.
How'd you know to cue that music?
I didn't cue the music.
Aren't you the guy that tells them?
Yeah. But I didn't do it.
Who did?
Not me.
How was the music ready? You're right there in that spot. You wouldn't know if someone came over and said,
yeah, but I wasn't in the truck.
No, but it doesn't. Isn't the music? Oh, the music's controlled by the truck.
Yeah.
So someone in the truck was told to have the music ready. You thought we were going to hear. You didn't think we were going to hear Shawn's music.
No, I had Bulldog and Owen in front of me, ready for a run-in. We're all waiting for the run-in. I'm waiting for the cue for the run-in. So all of a sudden, we're just sitting there watching, and it's like, who rang the bell?
So this is a decision that Vince makes, maybe with Pat?
No, Pat didn't know.
This is a decision Vince makes with Hebner?
It's a decision that Vince made.
With Shawn, Shawn knew, he has said, so he made with Shawn.
Yep.
Hebner had to know to ring the bell, so he knew.
Yep.
So maybe just the three of those?
Yep. There's maybe, probably one or two others that knew.
Workers or management?
No, management.
Okay.
No, I don't think any of the workers knew, unless Shawn told somebody. I don't know.
Hunter?
Don't know. Don't really know.
So it happens. You're watching.
I'm watching. I'm waiting.
And you're going, okay, that's how we're going to do it.
And Bulldog and Owen were in front of me. Mm-hmm. And I think Neidhart too. And they're like, what happened? What happened? I think they just fought Bret. They fought Bret. And what do we do? Because I think Hunter had made his way down. So, and it was a point for, because there was a point for Hunter to do a run-in. Mm-hmm. Hunter in China. And then it was going to bring down Owen and Bret.
Right.
I mean,
Vince comes out before everybody.
Well, it was Vince.
Too?
It was Vince and Sarge and Briscoe.
Right.
Okay, well that was to make it real, because it was to get them back into the ring and all that stuff. That was, they fought back and fought out, and so those guys went out. It was just to give that air of like, oh shit, this is real, and oh my God, Vince McMahon.
So Vince was going to be there anyway. It wasn't a surprise that he walked in. Okay.
No,
so,
no. It was part of it from the very beginning.
Okay. So the bell rings.
Matter of fact, I think it was Bret's idea that Vince be a part of it.
Okay. So the bell rings. Now, are you at what mode do you snap into when you realize that this has just happened? Are you inclined to run down and help Vince get out of the way, or do you stay there to run the gorilla position? What do you do?
I stayed because it was kind of shock more than anything. I didn't know. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And the way that everything was set up that night, and a whole bunch of different stories, but we were doing entrances backstage, which we saved for like very few matches, where we actually shot backstage of the guy coming from his dressing room all the way through Gorilla and out. And we had those entrances for Shawn and Bret that night. So the Gorilla position where I was, I didn't have anybody, nobody was there. It's just me. So, and nobody came back because they were all watching back on the monitors. And it just was, it was shock more than anything. So
there's a car waiting for Hebner to get him out, right?
Apparently.
Okay, this is what we hear.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is folklore, like you said. He spits, he throws a few monitors on the floor, stays in the ring for a while, is consoled by his extended family. Who hits Gorilla first, Vince or Bret, with his crew?
Shawn hit first, actually. Shawn and his guys were back first, and then...
is he still performing that he's shocked?
Yeah, threw the belt and went to the back. But and I think that's when I left. I don't even think I waited for Vince at that point. So I just went back to Vince's office and waited there.
And then take me into Vince coming back.
Vince and Shane and Gerald came back, and we watched the monitor, watched Bret throw everything down and all that. We made sure to get everybody out of there.
What's Vince saying at this point?
Nothing really, just watching. Just watching what he's doing. And Jerry Briscoe left and went and talked to Bret, and came back and said, need to go talk to Bret. He said, okay, let's go. So we went. And
was Bret alone in the locker room?
No.
Anvil and Davey and everyone?
There were a bunch of people in there. So
Shawn's not there, obviously.
Yeah, Shawn was there.
Shawn's there saying to Bret, Bret, I had no fucking idea. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you tell everybody to clear out so Vince can talk to him?
Went in, and they'd gone in, cleared everybody out. Only people that were involved in the match were in there. And then it was Vince, me, Shane, Tony Gurria, I think Sarge and Jerry were the only ones that were kind of outsiders looking in.
Who speaks first?
Probably Bret. There was a lot of fuck yous, and it was just, Vince explained his point. Bret pissed off, feeling was screwed, and that was it. I mean, that was really it. Bret finished taking a shower, got up, and approached Vince. It was one punch. Everybody got in between them and separated them.
Took a shower. It wasn't in the initial confrontation?
No, Bret was in the shower. Came out of the shower and said, when I finish my shower, I'll come out. And he finished taking a shower.
Why did Vince stay for the punch? Do you feel he owed it to Bret in a way?
Yeah. But he also, Vince is the kind of guy, he's gonna face you. He's gonna take whatever consequences there are. He's gonna do what he has to do for business. So to just run and hide, what does that accomplish? Is versus come in and go, hey Bret, here's why I did what I did. You left me no choice, and I'm here to face you as a man. Obviously Bret disagreed with that, And they had their confrontation.
Was it hard for Shane to stand by and allow his father to get hit by somebody?
Probably. I think that would be hard for any son to do. But it was, it wasn't. I've heard a lot of different versions about scuffle and fight and all that stuff. It wasn't all that. It was. They got up, and it was over. It was over as fast as it started.
Would they hit the floor? They hit the. You said they got up. They hit the floor.
No, they got up, and Bret hit him. Bret threw a punch, and everybody was there. Make sure that nothing else was done. So it wasn't. Left. Yeah, sat there for a while. I said, "You got anything else?" I said, "Nope." I said, "Do you have anything else?" "Nope." And we left. So it was an interesting walking by the family and all that down there.
Julie, you talking about Bret's family?
Bret's family, yeah. They spit on us and were none too kind.
Something that always hung with me was Bret's dad was Stu Hart, who ran a territory. And if Stu said to an exiting talent, "I need the bill tonight," and they said, "Not tonight, Stu." Bret doesn't know what his father would have had to do?
Sure he does.
Why is he being so silly? Learn from a promoter. Dad was a promoter.
Bret's the only one that can answer that question. Randy Savage, win them in the ring, you lose them in the ring. It's time-honored tradition that you're given this trophy, which is truly a trophy, and it shows that, okay, the company trusts in you, the company believes in you to carry this company and to wear their belt, and in turn, when it's time to move that to someone else, history dictates that you do the honorable thing and that you anoint whoever it is that they choose. You don't get to choose. Okay, you didn't get to choose it, you get to win it. You don't get to choose it, you get to lose it. Somebody else's decision. And you're not really a champion because somebody else, you didn't beat anybody. Somebody else said you're going to beat somebody. So it's not like, well, I beat so-and-so. No, you didn't.
Who screwed Bret Hart?
Bret screwed Bret.
Okay. Well,
and I truly believe that. That's
clearly.
Not just. It's not just a line. I feel that Bret was unreasonable in the way that he dealt with the situation.
All right, well, we have Bret now in our fantasy world, so we don't have to worry about doing anything at Survivor Series necessarily, but we do have plans. We're looking ahead. We're looking at Mike Tyson. We're looking at some big stuff, so we do need to kind of wind this down and do the right thing. So here we are in Titan Tower. What floor are we on if we're going to be talking about booking?
It would depend. We'd either be in the second floor training room or up in the booking room on the fourth floor.
We're on the fourth floor.
Fourth floor's got a better view of the sound.
And we need to start with Survivor Series and what we want to do. And maybe we'll take this through, let's say the Royal Rumble. Let's take this 3 months out to resolve the Bret Shawn. We got a bunch of Raws in here, too, to play with. Need to know how to be able to... One of the arts of booking is to keep it compelling enough for me to keep tuning in. Right. So you got to stretch, but you can't break. So show me how to do that. What are we going to do now that we don't have to get the belt off Bret? What can we do at Survivor Series to make everyone happy?
Well, the most logical thing would be exactly what we did, and that's to get to the Royal Rumble, because you've got to keep Shawn hot. You got to keep Bret relative, and you've got to continue to build Steve underneath all of that, because Steve is just this volcano ready to erupt underneath the whole thing. So the idea is basically you're doing your return. You do the exact same thing, not a screw finish, but you'd get the belt off of Bret at Survivor Series.
You would still get the belt off of him at Survivor Series?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you want to do your return at the Rumble. Now, boy, how do I do this? And at the Rumble, frankly, it would be Shawn once again, but depending upon, there were a lot of things that were going on at the time, okay, and there was other talent that was very close to coming in that would have made all this also kind of obsolete.
Was there a game changer that from WCW that maybe you were talking to, someone like a Sting or something like that, that would have maybe made this even more irrelevant?
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine at the Survivor Series, all of a sudden out of nowhere, let's say somebody from Hollywood showed up with a black beard and blonde hair.
David Arquette.
Yes, exactly.
Hogan.
Yeah.
Coming back.
Yeah.
What could you have done with Hogan? First of all, we were being jocular. How serious were those talks?
Those talks were pretty serious. Those talks were right up to the midnight hour serious.
Because of the issue that was happening, or this would have happened irrespective to Shawn and Bret having a problem?
This was happening because of Hogan's contract. It was time to come up, and he was looking for options.
As compared to what you were paying Bret, what would you be paying Hogan?
Comparable.
But a better investment.
A better investment. A different investment. A proven investment.
Right.
An investment that arguably was what was, in many respects, the game changer on the other side, that could possibly be the game changer on this side. And what better way to anoint your next megastar, who's simmering under here, than to have him be the most iconic star in your business at the time, the most iconic star arguably ever in the business.
How would you have been able to keep a heavyweight title angle hot if Hogan is showing up and preparing to work with Steve? I don't think anyone would. I mean, it would have been irrelevant almost.
Sure.
Wouldn't that damage your title a little bit?
No, not at all. Not if Hogan came in and became the champion.
Would Bret have agreed to that? Or this would have been done after Bret was gone?
Well, it would have, when you initially think about it, during the time frame, it wasn't necessarily an either or. It was, well, Hulk's available. Hulk could come in. What could we do with him? So if Hulk came in, you would, again, and I'm not talking to the wrestling purists or anybody else, strictly talking marquee. What's more attractive at that point? Bret versus Steve at WrestleMania, Shawn versus Steve at WrestleMania, and again, Mike Tyson right in the middle, or Hulk Hogan versus Steve at WrestleMania. Who's going to get, Tyson's already bringing the mainstream interest, the outside interest in. But what's going to make it even bigger than that is now you've got two guys that are, not taking anything away from Shawn or Bret, because both excellent. Name appeal, marquee value. What's more interesting? Is Hogan going to do the job? What's going to happen here? Just bring Hogan back and put the title on him? Are you going to beat him for Steve Austin? And it was an era that we were creeping so much reality into it. The initial scene with Steve and Mike Tyson, which was real. Mm-hmm. Well, it was fucking as real gets. Okay?
Why?
Because you got, when you take people outside of our business and you put them in our business, and you ask them to work, they don't know what that is. But when you take someone and you put them in our business and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do to you. Do whatever you need back. And there's no fear. It's like, all right, now you got two bulls saying, give me your best shot.
So it's just because of their natural personalities.
Natural personalities.
Right.
You know, Steve could have gone in and thrown a working punch or a working push, and Tyson gone back and everything else. And you could have had a couple of security guys going, no. We had people that could handle themselves in there that knew who to grab, how to grab them, and let the guys know, don't stop.
Right.
That's it. So you had an air of reality. Throw into that mix now a new old face, and it's like, holy shit.
Right.
You got it makes it new. It makes it new again.
Yeah.
And it may have even been bigger. Who knows? I mean, it didn't happen, but who knows?
So should we factor Hogan into what you have here?
Well, see, I had the A and the B. Because it's there's not a lot that would change, with the exception of Royal Rumble being the return with Bret and Shawn, with Shawn going over to get to WrestleMania. There's just not a whole lot that would change. We introduced Tyson the night after the Rumble and did all of those things. It was all, it was all laid out for DX and the X-rated WrestleMania and Tyson being a part of all that. As a matter of fact, the day after the the day after the Angle on Raw is when we sat and went, wow, we need more dates on Mike, and we need to do more with Mike. Originally, it was going to be, the shove, the animosity, and a little back and forth, and then the appeal was Tyson back in the ring, and Steve and Shawn and the emergence of Stone Cold. That was such a magic moment that we sat and went, uh-oh, we got something here.
Got to add a little bit to the kitty.
But
he was willing, because he was a fan, right?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
He was absolutely great. So.
All right, what are we doing?
I don't know. I thought you were going to help me on this. No.
Come on, Greg.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's you would go, and again, you want to do this with or without Hogan?
Let's put Hogan in. I want to know how you guys would have done it.
Well, the way that I would have done it, is you would go Survivor Series, the same thing, and I would have Hogan show up the very next night on Raw.
Okay, so we wait for Raw.
Yep.
Bring out Hogan. In a promo, open the show, music hits, he comes to the ring kind of thing, or is it a run-in that night? What is it? You've
got Shawn Michaels coming out right off the top of the show, shoving it up everybody's ass. We were in Ottawa or wherever the hell we were the next night. Here comes Bret, and out of the blue, here comes Hogan to interrupt. Here comes Hogan to interrupt to go, hang on, well, you guys have been up here playing, and let him, Hulk always looked at Bret and Shawn as the little guys, because he was the monster. So call them out and go, well, you little guys, you realize you're dealing with a heavyweight champion now, and you're fighting over a heavyweight champion. When I'm the only WWF champion that has ever really meant anything to that belt. I'm the only man that has ever come out and stood there and goes, I've conquered. I left here, I went down, and he goes, I can tell it. I set everything on fire down south for Ted Turner because I was the only guy, and it was true. I was the only guy that could kick Vince McMahon's ass or WWF's ass. Because again, Vince wasn't a character at that point. And then you would change it to go and either do a three-way but what I always wanted to do, and again, I'm working, sometimes you have to work backwards.
A three-way, how far out?
I'd do the three-way at Royal Rumble because I always wanted to get to Taker and Bret at Mania. The same year. It was Taker Kane, but you had to keep Bret good. And Bret was red hot as a heel as well. Everywhere else other than Canada. Canada he was, walked on water. Okay? But elsewhere, they were heels everywhere else, and he was red hot as a heel. So you have the streak, and you've got this red hot Bret, former champion, woe was me, fuck you, all this shit. What better than to put put those two, because you couldn't call it. Bret had beaten Taker before for the title, done all these different things to do that at WrestleMania. So working backwards, you got to get Bret
Out
with
of
Taker.
that,
You got to get Bret out of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you bring Hogan in, and you've got you can do it any number of ways. All of a sudden, Hulk's going from the NWO to a new leader of DX. So now you've got Hulk, who's like taking Shawn, and maybe in your three-way or whatever you do, it's Bret, the one that you're beating, because you've got to beat Bret down to get him to reaffirm with Taker.
So you're saying Hogan could form an alliance with DX? Join the faction, lead the faction, whatever.
Right. Shawn was going away. Shawn's back was hurt. Shawn needed time off. Shawn was going away. That was the plan at Mania. So it was a gamble with Hunter and those guys. We didn't know what we really had. We hoped, and it worked, but we didn't really know at that point. So if you had a strong guy like Hogan, why wouldn't you put him in there? Why wouldn't you stack the deck? Hulk Hogan with DX, and you've got Shawn, you've got Hunter, you got China, you got the Outlaws, you got these other guys going against Steve Austin by himself, and you've got Mike Tyson in the mix, who, Tyson talks about, if I'm going to go with anybody, I'm going to go with the Hulkster, by God, Hulkamania. I took my vitamins, said my prayers, trained every day, because I always wanted to be a Hulkamaniac. So you've got all this. Hogan was a hot heel at the time as well. You bring him over with the hot faction, and you build everything underneath it. So now Steve has even more of a hill that he's got to climb.
How do we get there, keeping it interesting? We know, okay, Survivor Series, Shawn has the title. Raw, we're bringing in Hogan. Eventually, we have to move Bret out of here. Hogan's going to stand there, and he's going to say, you two short, small guys, blah, 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 I'm the deal. We got to get Bret out of that equation, and we got to get Hogan to align with Shawn somehow, either after a match.
And I'll tell you how
between
you
the two
do it. You completely shit all over Shawn winning the title at Survivor, and you have Bret keep the title at Survivor, and you go on to Royal Rumble with Hogan and Bret.
Okay, all right. So Bret keeps the strap.
Bret keeps it. Go to Rumble. And Hogan beats Bret.
And now Hogan's aligned with DX. So it's DX against Bret, in essence. Now, what's Steve doing at this time? Because you want Steve and Hogan to be able to cross at some point.
But you don't want them to cross until after Steve wins the Rumble.
Okay. So we take this to the Royal Rumble. We have Hogan
Bret
versus Bret. And that's going to be
Hogan wins the
strap
title.
Change, okay. And what is Steve doing at this point? Is he in any kind of feud? Is it just keeping him on TV?
I think you could finish off, because you've also you had Steve working with Owen and the Intercontinental title and the Hart Foundation and those guys. So Steve's got a lot of people to play with that he can beat, and throughout that, you've got Owen, you got Neidhart, Bulldog, everybody that's going to keep Steve busy from Survivor to the Rumble. Okay, because they're protecting Bret, who's the champion. So you've got Austin versus the Hart Foundation, and any number of variations throughout the whole thing that takes you all the way from November to January. At which point Bret's kind of segue out. Steve bumps up. You could do something with Taker, and it just becomes that gray area, because at the Rumble, I would have had Taker and Kane, which was originally the WrestleMania match. But at the Rumble, you would do your Taker-Kane thing, so you can leave Taker and Bret now.
So that's
they can match up.
Bret has to get to him.
Yes.
Now Austin, I guess, is going to resolve his feud with the Hart Foundation at the Rumble
by winning the title.
And then we got to get him.
Not winning the title, winning the Rumble.
Get him with Hogan somehow. So that's kind of what has to happen. How would you make Hogan and Austin?
It's already made. It's just a natural. It's already made. You have the single most recognizable WWF star of all time in Hulk Hogan. He's now back, and he's now the champion. So he's on top of the world. He's going into WrestleMania as the WWF champion. Now you have this volcano that explodes, and he's going after the champion. So you've got the icon and the soon-to-be icon. Literally the two most popular guys in the business. And they're going to go head-on at WrestleMania. It's quick. In a perfect world, you'd want a year to build that.
That's true too, yeah. Maybe 3 months isn't enough.
It isn't, but at the same time, what would be hot, and again, looking at you're losing Shawn, so you need another heel to get in there and be able to fill that void. And he comes in right on top, and it solidifies Steve, and it makes Steve forever at that point. His first big crack at it, he wins it. He beats the most recognizable star there is. You've got Mike Tyson involved. Tyson does the turn at the end. Everything's done. Knock Hogan out. You bring Hogan out the next night. DX beats the living fuck out of him. Hogan's babyface, or either goes away, comes back as a babyface, and sprinkles, which Steve didn't need. Steve didn't need to sprinkle Hulk dust on him. But again, it's a way to make everybody whole again, beyond WrestleMania.
So at WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania, you'd have Austin Hogan with Tyson. You'd have Taker Bret. And
let's book
you'd
that.
have Shawn and Triple H.
And this is Shawn's exit, right? He
Yes.
still needs to go.
Yes.
So who goes over who and how, and how do we keep? I think that's always the trick, right?
These are
Austin and
just so
Hogan,
easy.
you can get another year out of it. How do you keep them both hot and still have a resolution? You can't have a DQ at WrestleMania, right?
No, you Stone Cold Stunner, 1, 2, 3.
Terry's not going to do that.
Has to do it.
Would he play ball?
Sure.
Stunner and a 3 count.
Stunner and a 3 count. Win them in the middle, lose them in the middle.
And you can keep that hot after a clean finish?
You don't have to, because by aligning, again, you've got Hogan aligning himself with DX. You have Riff within DX, which again, it's underneath. You've got DX, Riff underneath with Triple H and Shawn and the Outlaws. So the young against, you can call Shawn old because, fuck Shawn, you didn't get it done. You didn't win the title. You didn't get done. How can you be our leader? I mean, look at Hulk. Hulk came in, bam, one night, he gets it done. So now you start the riff with Triple H and Shawn. Shawn then anoints Triple H by Triple H defeating him at WrestleMania. You've got Hogan with Hunter and New Age Outlaws and China and all this shit, and Tyson and everything, all the deck stacked going into Mania. Then the next night, or the next few weeks, you got DX that says, fuck Hogan, you didn't get the job done either last night. Let him turn on Hogan, get rid of Hogan, send him away so Hulk can come back as a babyface. Now you've got DX to play with Steve throughout that whole thing.
Right.
And DX now is establishing themselves because they've now taken out Shawn, and they've now taken out Hogan as heels. Now they're going to focus on Steve. So now you got Steve to play with, and now Steve's got heels he can bounce all around and be able to make him as he moves along.
What would Tyson's role have been in the finish?
God, I would do exactly. I mean, it was just so easy and just so beautiful to do the turn there at the end on Hogan and go in and count the 3 on Steve when it was time.
Right.
And have Hogan get up and knock him out. I mean, not only did you lose, you got your ass knocked out by a washed-up boxer. Fresh out of jail? Come on.
And Hogan, from all we hear about Hogan would have done this?
Oh, man, you know, you hear things about Hogan. Hogan's a businessman. And it's sometimes the right thing for business is to make the most popular guy seem invincible. That's not always his decision. He's Hulk Hogan. You can never take that away from him. So he would do business without a doubt, especially then when he was red hot, looking at the backside of it. Because it's not just, oh, God, I'm doing a job at WrestleMania. No, you're doing a job at WrestleMania to have DX turn on you, that you came in and brought you're bringing all these guys up, and now you're going to come back, go away for a little bit, came back, nice. We've got, 6 months of you. Okay, now go away for a little bit, come back, now you're a hero. Come back as a conquering hero when it's time. But we've got to make Steve as well in that time.
Bret's value. We get to WrestleMania, he's going to go against Taker. Taker's obviously going to go over, keep the streak.
Yes.
And Bret is then free to go take a WCW contract?
If that's what he wanted to do, yeah.
Or do you think Bret could be a player still with all these
Bret definitely
new
could have been, oh, God. All of a sudden you've got, coming right out of that, and again, losing to Taker is, please, if you can't lose to Undertaker, you can't lose. But you've got Bret, I mean, great matches already there with Austin, with Bret, with Austin, with Triple H, with Austin, with the New Age Outlaws. Whoever you've got the Outlaws to help build all of that. It's all built in already. So it would make, you haven't had your Austin Bret stuff in this role. You had them in reverse roles.
Right.
Okay? But now, Bret's chasing again, and he becomes whole.
Works for me. Hopefully would have worked for the fans. I can't imagine it wouldn't have. Thank you for your candor.
Dude, thank you. But I had more cards.
Oh, no. What'd you have?
No, actually, no. I played with the tag team guys, and actually, if we didn't have Hogan, you would do. For me, I would have done my first Rock Triple H right there, because that was magic as well.
Hogan.
I like the Hogan 2 thing. I mean, that was a dream, kind of a dream scenario.
What sank the deal?
I think money. And just Terry's comfort with where he was at the time. You know, he didn't have to. I think you look at, gosh, man, I can come in and work Monday Nitro when I want to and get paid all this money, or I can go back to work for Vince and he's going to work me.
Right.
I can go to work once a week and do whatever I want to do, or Vince is going to work me. I think that's probably what did it. It was probably money and timing and everything else. But it was, his contract was up. He had called, and we went through the whole negotiations. We went literally, and when I say literally, it went to the midnight hour. Literally went to the midnight hour.
Did Eric know that it was going on?
I'm sure he did. We didn't. It wasn't. The funny thing about it is it never got out, and nobody hid it. They met in open, met in a restaurant in the open, didn't do clandestine meeting, anything like that. And it was out there, and he was negotiating with us, forthright, and so I would have to assume that he was doing the same thing on the other side, because it wasn't a hidden deal.
See, we thought we knew everything in the age of the internet. We didn't. Yes. So thank you again. And
thank you.
Thank you for all the Richard Ramirez conversation in the breaks.